Some relief in the works for Barbadians suffering water woes. Local poultry producers report a hike in production. And in sports, a Christchurch and St. Michael team are through to the semis of the David Thompson Football Classic.
Credible, balanced, committed. This is the CBC Evening News.
Very good night to you. I'm Lisa Broom with the Saturday, November 28th edition of the CBC Evening News. In our top story tonight, there could be some relief soon for people experiencing water woes across the island. Water Resource Management Minister Dr. David Estwick says the Barbados Water Authority has found the 3.5 million gallons of water it had targeted in the St. Philip Water Augmentation Project. He says while it is not a final solution to the supply problems, it will bring some relief to consumers.
That is 3.5 million gallons of net additional water that we can pump into the system. And part of the mitigation against some of the challenges that we were having in the north of the country in regards to issues of water outages and so on, we can mitigate some of that because that water can now be pumped to vineyards, and from vineyard it can be pumped through St. John and into parts of St. Joseph. And we are working to see how we can tie that in the best way to make sure that we can deal with that.
Dr. Estwick was speaking at yesterday's official opening of the BWA's new building in the Pine. He gave an update on some of the other major projects being done by the authority.
Our sanitation, water and sanitation upgrade project, I think we have completed the package A of that project. I think package B of that project is ongoing, supposed to be finished, I think, by the end of December, early January. We've also been successful in regards to our Ionics water mains project, the laying of the three mains, one from the Bell to Bussa, one from Britain's Hill to Providence, and then one from Fort George to Surs.
The local poultry industry has had a record year, producing more chicken for consumption than it has in the last 15 years. This from Chief Executive of the Barbados Agricultural Society, James Paul. However, Mr. Paul says the massive gains made over the last year could be reversed if importers are allowed to bring in alternative products.
This year, for instance, is the first calendar year in Barbados in which we will see, at least in 2 months of that year, over 1 million birds being produced, and that is really a record. It has happened this year, and we anticipate that this year, that as we go into December, that production is going to go over 10 million birds for the year. That is a record. It has not happened in the last 15 years. I don't know if you can say ever happened in Barbados at all. So it is a new playing field that we are on, and with that kind of new standard being set, we would not want people to go out there and engage in actions that would undermine that.
Mr. Paul says the spin-offs from the increase in production are also important for the economy.
We have doubled the membership within the BPPA alone, and that speaks to that, okay? With the doubling of that membership, therefore, it means, therefore, that more people are getting involved. You're seeing more employment being generated in the industry. And that is something, of course, that we applaud. The other point I wish to make is that, it is also putting pressure on our service providers because, what it means is that the feed mill has to step up to the plate in terms of ensuring and guaranteeing supplies of feed when it is ready, when we need it.
A university lecturer believes Barbados and other Caribbean countries need to find ways to teach their young people to be wise interpreters of popular culture. She is Dr. Tonya Haynes, who was one of the panelists at a discussion at Solidarity House, hosted by the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit. The subject, the degradation of women in popular culture. Dr. Haynes says in a globalized media world, we cannot put children in a protective bubble to try to shield them from North American and other cultural influences. She says young people need to be taught media literacy.
You can buy them books with images of themselves, but this has to be an active part of education, navigating popular culture. And part of that lesson has to be that yes, you can go to the scabical cruise, but you can also go to university, because women are complex beings, and there's no, if you go on a cruise and you bash out, that somehow it means that you have absolutely no intelligence, no worth, no self-respect. Otherwise, you would not have invited me here tonight if that were the case.
Well, Dr. Haynes also says she has issues with the idea that popular culture completely sexualizes and degrades women.
We could wonder, why do so many women participate in crop over and in carnival? When it comes to the persons who are willing to pay so much money to be part of a band, the majority of them, whether it's in Trinidad or it's here, are women. And we might ask ourselves why. And perhaps the answer might lie in the fact that that kind of crop over space or carnival space becomes the only sanctioned space for women's sexual expression, whereas all the other 364 days of the year, women's bodies in public, you're facing massive sexual harassment, massive street harassment, the street harassment that schoolgirls face daily.
It's a condition affecting children that an education official says many misunderstand. And Education Officer for Nursery and Primary Schools in the Ministry of Education, Kay Sargent, has sought to clear up the misconceptions about dyslexia. The condition was placed under the spotlight as the Rotary Club of Barbados held its first sensitization initiative, Dyslexia, A Brief Look. She made it clear that dyslexia is not a sign of low intelligence.
As a matter of fact, many students who've been diagnosed with dyslexia have average to above average intelligence. Many students get labeled as being lazy within the class. It is not a sign of laziness.
And Ms. Sargent says it's important teachers can identify the condition so they can help the children.